We're kicking off our official selection Q&As by welcoming Dan Dinu, director of Wild Romania, to share some insight behind his captivating and visually stunning production. Welcome, Dan.
Hi.
Before we get started, I wanted to ask, where are you joining us from today in the world?
From Romania. I still have the little bit of chance to stay home a little bit because I was traveling a lot with the festival. So yeah, now I'm home.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us today via the power of Zoom. Before we get started, can I also ask, in terms of your experience as a director before Wild Romania, what have you been working on over the years that led up to this production?
I cannot say that I have a lot of experience as a director or a producer, movie producer. We just have only one, let's say, feature film before the Wild Romania project. So yeah, it's a new experience for me also. I'm a photographer mainly than a movie director, so it's a new thing, and it was nice to have this success with the movie.
I feel like that definitely comes across in the production. It is just so visually stunning. All of the sort of drone shots and all the close-ups of the really small creatures. It pulls you into that world through how beautiful and sort of high definition all the imagery is. And in terms of your production, Wild Romania, obviously selected as part of our official selection this year. If you had to pick 3 words to describe this production, what would those be?
Hard work, 2 words already. And I think that a lot of perseverance. That's the point, because our project, it was 10 years long. So yeah, we had a lot of work to do that, because Romania is still a wild country, so it's not easy to film wildlife here.
No, I mean, it's definitely a labor of love if it's taken 10 years to produce your film. So the film is obviously a really loving depiction of what it calls the wildest country in Europe. And our programmers as well also noted that the Romanian landscape is sort of often underexplored in natural world storytelling. When you set out to make this production, did you have specific goals about the impact it would make and the audiences it would reach, but either locally or internationally?
For sure, we are thinking to bring Romania closer to Romanian people, because not all of my countrymen know the area quite good. So that was the first goal. We didn't expect to have this international success with the movie. As you said, Romania is still a wild country, so not many productions came here to make some interesting shots. I know only a few of them. For example, no big landmark natural history production was here until 2 years ago, I think. So yeah, it's strange, because we protect the tigers in India, the silverbacks in Congo, but we sometimes forget about our own yard. And Romania still has almost all the species that we have in Europe. So yeah, excepting the marine wildlife, I think that we are really good on preserving the let's say, this hotspot of biodiversity.
I think that definitely comes across when you're watching. From my perspective as someone based in the UK, there are lots of species that are quite similar to what we have here, like the blackbirds or the sort of kingfishers, lots of species that would unite European audiences who are watching it. But as well, I think there are certain moments where you highlight different ecosystems in particular that are quite rare across the rest of Europe. Like I think it was the European sort of wildflower meadows that are just bursting with wildlife and biodiversity. But I think it said they were one of the rarest across Europe. But Wild Romania, it's a common sight for you guys over there. So do you feel like your film as well helps to highlight different aspects of rewilding or ecosystems that need conservation that the rest of Europe could do better, like Romania is doing?
For sure, we try to do this, and we try to, let's say, put a focus on some of the most remarkable areas that we have. You mentioned the Transylvanian meadows, for example. We have the Danube Delta. We have some other small areas that are quite interesting regarding conservation. And of course, for Romanians, it's easy to recognize those places. It's easy to, let's say, to get along with this type of landscape or with this type of stories. But for somebody else, it's quite a unique site. I just remember when I was at Wildscreen, I was talking with Martin about his beautiful garden with 1,000 bees with Martin Dor. And it was quite interesting because when I talked with him about the meadows in Transylvania, he said, okay, I want to come there. Just because it's a type of landscape that it's almost disappeared in all Western Europe. And we still have it here. And we still have a lot of those meadows. And that's a part of the story, actually, because if we preserve those meadows, actually, for preserving those meadows, we need to preserve the Romanian way of life, the traditional way of life, because those meadows are quite interesting because the people in that area still use, let's say, traditional methods to cut the grass, for example. They do not use the machines for that. They just use a normal, I don't know the name of the cycle, I think.
Is it like a scythe?
So yeah. So they do it manually. So that's why we preserve this kind of landscapes. This is the interesting connection between people and wildlife. We didn't wanted to put it too much in our movie because we wanted to make it a real blue chip. It's actually one of the few blue chip movies that are made in Romania. So yeah, we will focus on that. But for sure, this kind of story are also interesting.
Yeah, in terms of the conservation of these wild meadows, then, are there pressures from either local people or the government to turn them into sort of agriculture or places where cattle are farmed, that sort of thing? Or is it part of the culture that everyone recognizes that these are really important places to conserve?
There are some projects to develop more this idea of conserving these meadows, for example, but we don't have big problems like, I don't know, the government want to make agriculture there. The problem is that the normal people that used to keep these meadows open, they're not doing this anymore too much because they are developing, they want to cut the grass mechanically, they leave those villages. So the problem is that the people are abandoning these places, not a pressure from outside. And another problem is that those type of meadows, if nobody cut the grass from there, it will be like the forest will close the meadows at some point. So we will not have these beautiful areas, we'll have just normal forest.
Yeah, they definitely need to be conserved, and it's great that the local people are. There are still people out there who are kind of doing everything manually, and that there's an effort to try and maintain them as they have been for probably many thousands of years as well. So with our official selection, we obviously aim to highlight authentic voices from across the world who shine a spotlight on their own local flora and fauna. How do you feel being a filmmaker from Romania and based in Romania helps shape the way that you tell stories about your own country?
It's obvious that the best stories from one area can be told by somebody that's living those stories from his childhood, like I do. I'm passionate about this, I don't know, for as long as I can recall. So that's the beauty of the local stories told by local people. They know a little bit more about it. I remember that there was another movie made here about Romanian wilderness, but it was made like a generic movie for all over the planet. Some scenes filmed here were like some scenes filmed in other places in Europe that had the same wildlife. So what we did, we tried to put as much local talent as we could in the movie, and all the team was from here. The sound design was made here, even though it was the first project that our colleagues did for a documentary movie. The music was as authentic as possible, preserving that orchestra part, but we tried to put some local instruments, some local vibes, some local rhythms. This is the thing that make Wild Romania a little bit more interesting for, especially for the Romanians, because they know the areas. It's hard to, let's say, to lie to them about some areas. But of course, for the international audience, because you'll have this vibe that it's a country that you think you know it, but actually you don't. That's the thing that we try to make in the movie.
That's really interesting that you pick up on the music as well, because I think when I was watching it, I definitely noticed that there was a sort of style of music and certain instruments that felt Romanian, but I couldn't quite picture what they were, or I wasn't quite sure how to put my finger on it. So it's interesting that you did that. So it was an intentional choice to weave that authentic music and instruments in alongside the local wildlife and visuals.
Yeah, this was one of our dreams from the beginning, to have the original music and to have a live orchestra doing this. And of course, it was a challenge because nobody recorded with a live orchestra for a movie, even for a fiction movie, for maybe 20 years. Just because the feature movies from Romania are, let's say, very well seen at the festivals, but they are very minimalistic in sound. It's like a trend they did, and they try to preserve it. It's some, I don't know, Romanian Balkanic authentic mood in that movies. But we try to do exactly the opposite. So we think about huge scale orchestra, and our composer Alexei Tsurkan was very, very good on doing this. And he was his first feature documentary film that he composed for it. It's more than 1 hour and a half of music. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was quite an experience and quite a challenge. And I remember at another festival, a music composer came to me and said, okay, you are quite wealthy in Romania if you afford to have a live orchestra for that movie. And I said, okay, almost all the budget was going to the music for this film. So filming with it was easy. It was done in many years, but for the music, we just put all the money into to have this thing. So yeah, it was a challenge, but it was worth it, I think.
I also wanted to say as well that your film is really effective, I think, at highlighting the biodiversity and the wilderness in Romania, particularly through the different chapters that you have that focus on birds and then mammals and then different sort of ecosystems. The segment that stood out to me as a bird lover was obviously the first one with those species of birds. And I think in the narration as well, it mentioned that you have about 400 species of bird that either migrate or kind of live locally in Romania. I wanted to ask how you chose which species to showcase out of all of the hundreds that you had to select from.
I could lie to you and I say that it was a plan from the beginning and we choose this particular species. But you have to imagine that this movie, it's, let's say we film only for the movie for about 4 years, along with my colleague Cosmin Dumitrache. And it was interesting because at the beginning we had some small plans. Okay, we'll go for the capercaillie. It's something that is quite interesting. We go for the kingfisher, for the bee-eater, some of the birds. But at some point, because the projects were starting to be well known in Romania, other photographers, friends, filmmakers just give us a call or a message and say, I have this nest, something is happening here, you want to check it? And we went for almost every hint that we have. And at some point we had too many species filmed, not with every species was a complete story, but it was like, okay, we have to stop now and let's see what are the stories that we want to actually tell. And sometimes it was just pure luck. For example, we went for the capercaillies. We stood there for 7 days. In the first day, we had one of the stories in the movie, actually, the one with the young male that is trying to gather the behavior of the older males. That was made in the first day, and after that we say, okay, let's try to stay more and see what we can have. Of course, we had more details, more landscape for that story, but also at some point it was snowing, and it was all the capercaillies mating in the snow. It was quite impressive. It was quite interesting, but to say, okay, this is another story. We cannot put it in the same movie. It will be too much. So we just needed to figure out which stories we have to choose. And it was for 7 days that we filmed there. The drama with the golden eagle, it was also a challenge because it was filmed in 2 years. For the first year, we just filmed the first part with the small chicks. And after 2 weeks, when we came to film the behavior, the chicks were not in the nest anymore. We don't know exactly what happened. Maybe another bird of prey got them, or I don't know. So we need to wait another year just to finish the whole story. For the bee-eaters, for the funny thing with the bee-eaters mating, it was just made in 2 hours. It was just pure luck, and that was it. So yeah, sometimes you need to stay a lot in the field to follow a story, to know exactly what to do. Sometimes you just need to be lucky. And what was also interesting is that we didn't had something very specific in mind. Okay, we wanted to film the behavior of golden eagles in the nest, but we didn't know exactly when we will do it, how we will do it, and things like that. So we just go out, film open-minded, and sometimes came back with maybe an even greater story than the one that we had in mind.
From what you're saying, I can definitely see why it took so much patience and hard work over 10 years to capture. But it's really interesting how some of the stories organically happen in a very short period of time, whereas others take a lot more time to weave together. And I suppose that shows the accomplishment that you've made in this film in making it seem so seamless and bridging those time gaps so it doesn't feel like it's taken wait for these things to happen. It feels very natural in terms of the flow. So well done. I
don't have too much experience making films. This is the first big film that we did, but for sure I have a lot of experience watching films. So I think that all the things that we did well in this, it's just because I saw a lot of films, documentary films, good ones. And I like this kind of stories. I wanted that Wild Romania to be like a story from the beginning to the end, just to follow things, not to have this fade to black parts. Okay, this is a chapter that we close, we start another one. I just wanted to feel like you are in the same story from the beginning to the end.
No, I think it definitely does, and it takes you around all these different ecosystems and it just sort of seamlessly journeys you through Romania, I think, which obviously is what your goal was to start with. Obviously, throughout these sort of 10 years of pre-production, production, and post, was there a moment that still stands with you particularly, or something that taught you something new about a species or an aspect of your native wildland that would basically follow you forever from this production?
For sure, I think that the best part and the worst part in the same time was following the big carnivores. For the bears, it's not so complicated. It was a little bit more easier, even though we wanted to film not only in bear hides, but also in the mountains. So that was a challenge because it was quite complicated. But the most complicated one is for wolves and lynx. Wolves, for example, you have to imagine that I'm going in the mountains for about 25 years or so. And I just saw a wolf once in all this time, even though Romania has the largest numbers of wolves and lynx and bears in all Europe. Actually, let's say European Union, because Europe it's a little bit bigger, and we have a neighbor here in the west, which is larger and has a lot of wildlife also. And the thing is that even it was the same with the lynx. So it was quite complicated to follow a story, and it was quite complicated to have like a script or something. We just used for 2 years, we used the camera traps, and for filming for 2 years, we just have 5 minutes with wolf and lynx in the movie. It's not because we don't have them, it's just because it's hard to film them. They are very, very aware. For example, the wolves, even if we let the camera there for 2-3 months, every time they pass the camera, they look at the camera. They know that it's something there that is not in their natural habitat. And of course, they made the footage almost useless all the time because they are just smiling at the camera all the time. With the lynx, it was almost the same. But with the lynx, we had luck at the end of the project. I think that it was exactly until we started to make our post-production. I just stayed for 2 days in the forest, in the hide in winter, quite cold, and in the final minute, in the final day, exactly as you see in the in the fiction movie, the lynx was coming 3 meters in front of us, just posed, make a nice portrait, and that was it. So yeah, sometimes you have to be lucky, but this kind of luck, it's happened only once in your lifetime, I think. And of course, that was actually what I felt there, what I feel there. It was interesting because I was trying to put the same thing in the movie. So when I came home with the lynx portrait, put it in the movie, write some words, send it to the team and say, okay, this will be the end of the movie. Everybody say, okay, this should be the end of the movie. So no spoilers. It will be a lynx at the end of the movie.
So obviously, as part of our official selection, we also grant an audience award. And at our award winners brunch, one of our programmers, Emma Hughes, awarded it to you for Wild Romania, based on our delegates' engagement with your film on our film library. Obviously, that audience award comes with a cash prize of £1,000 as well, which is great. What did that recognition of our delegates kind of presenting you with the audience award mean to you?
As you can remember from the small gala, it was quite a surprise. I was not expected this. I didn't think about that anyway. It was just a huge surprise. And I think that even though a night before it was the big Panda Award ceremony, I think that audience awards, it's one of the best prizes for us, because we did this movie for the audience. We didn't do it for the I don't know, for the industry. We don't have an industry here in Romania for this kind of movies. So I think that for us, it was one of the most important prizes that we get, because we also get the same award here in Romania at TIFF Festival, in Transylvania International Film Festival. It was at the screening of actually at the premiere of the movie. It was done in open air in front of 2,500 people. It was a huge crowd.
Oh, wow.
And from all that festival, is the biggest movie festival in Romania. All the people choose a documentary to represent the audience award, not a feature film like it was used before. So I think that these kind of awards are the best one, because this movie it's a passion movie. It's not a commission movie. We didn't have any distributor or anything until we finished the movie. We just did it by ourselves. So I think that the public recognition is the best one.
That's fantastic. And do you have any more plans to showcase the film through Romania? Do you have sort of a plan for exhibition to help encourage more people connect with their local wildlife?
Yeah, for sure we have. Now we have a distribution in Romania. It's on HBO Max app, so it's accessible to a lot of people. Also, we have international distribution. So yeah, now the movie can be seen everywhere almost. It's depending, of course, of the countries. But yeah, I think that it's a good thing, and we still, even though it's almost 1 year from, actually more than 1 year, and from the first screening of the movie, and we still receive emails from people that say, okay, it was very interesting, I just saw it, I didn't know it before. So they are quite impressed, even though if it's not a new movie anymore. So it's nice to see that it has this follow-up. And also we have other plans to go with the movie in the schools, for example. We have a lot of small projects here in Romania to do that. And actually this project is not only about the movie. We have a photo book also, which is quite big, is the first one in Romania that cover all the country. We have an app, we have plans for making small, let's say, screenings for schools, for other small festivals, just to bring the movie closer to the people and to the audience, because I think that is the best way to learn.
What's the functionality, or what's the purpose of the app? Is it to sort of identify creatures, or?
It's just an app where you have a lot of the natural areas of Romania. You can see them, you can see where they are, things like that. And we are starting to develop a module for like a quiz to learn more about, for children to play with it, to see if they know more about the flora, fauna, landscape of Romania. So it's mainly keen on education, not only on I don't know, scientific part.
Yeah, I think that's really important, being able to get children to engage and feel really passionate about their local wildlife while they're young. means that they're probably going to keep that as they grow older, and when they get to the age where they can sort of start making decisions about conservation of land and wildlife, they will have that memory of that film that helped spark the passion with them. So I think that's really important, and I think it'll be really interesting to see over the years how that continues to impact kids in the future of Romania.
I was one of those kids, of those kids, but almost 40 years ago. And yeah, one of my favorite books was an animal book. And it was an old one. It was from a communist time, so not so interesting like the ones that we have today. But for sure, that was the spark that drive me to do this project after all. So I think that this is the best part, just to plant those seeds now and see how they grow later. So yeah, we will see what's happening.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to follow up in 10 years' time and see. In terms of your cash prize as well, would you mind sharing what your plan is for where to invest that? Is that going into sort of equipment or storytelling? What's your plan?
For sure, I think that the equipment is almost the second part in every type of movie. So yeah, we will focus more on the storytelling for sure, because this is my passion also. And we will use it for the next project that we have. Our next film will focus on the Danube Delta. So I think that it's the biggest wetland in Europe. I think that it's the best let's say area that we can have, because it's full of biodiversity. It's quite a huge hotspot for I think that more than every wild areas in other places in Europe. We have there like 5,500 species, and it's just a small place. It's just 2% of Romanian surface, so it's quite a biodiverse area. And I think that the story of the Danube Delta was never told before as it is as a whole. It was always, let's say, part of other stories, like I don't know, movies about the Danube, following the Danube in all the countries and focus on the Delta, or some stories in the big productions, but not all about this particular area. So yeah, we want to make some justice there if we can.
Fantastic, because I know it features sort of in some segments of Wild Romania, but you're going to have a standalone film that just highlights the species that live there. Perfect. Well, I look forward to that coming out. Do you have an estimate when that will be ready?
I think that around 2024, if everything goes well. We still, let's say, we started to film some parts, and we're still developing the pre-production. Also, we just go along with the both things in the same time. This is the beauty of having a small team. You don't have a script that you need to follow. You don't have very strict deadlines. It's a little bit more discovering and building in the same time. We want to follow the same process as Wild Romania if we can.
Is there anyone who, as part of your next project, you want to connect with? Anyone based in Romania or any distributors? Because now would be a great time to shout out if you're looking for anyone to collaborate with.
I think that everybody that wants to do something in Romania about documentary films, they can easily contact us, because they already started, because this project was developing. So we are now starting a lot of collaboration with other people around Europe that wants to film in Romania, or I don't know, have this type of productions here, because we really know our country. Actually, after 10 years of doing this movie, for sure we really know our country, and we work a lot with the NGOs, with the scientists here. So yeah, this is it's a good place to start. I don't know. I don't have somebody in particular that I want to, let's say, okay, you should come here or you should come here. It's just if they feel that Romania it's a nice country to feature in their films, we are here for that. So everybody can search for our project and just say hi, and that's it. I think that it's enough connection for now.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure to put the NTD film link in the description or on the screen for however people are watching this. So anyone who does want to get in touch, even if it's, I guess, just to say thank you for making this spectacular production, they can do. So thank you very much for your time today, Dan. It's been a pleasure to chat with you and learn more about how your film has been really impactful for local communities, but also managed to touch people all across the world. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, and see you in Bristol in 2 years, I think.
See you in Bristol. Wild Romania will be available to watch on demand on our film library until the 16th of December for any festival delegates. Anyone with a full hybrid pass or a virtual pass can access the film library now. If you don't yet have a pass, you can purchase one on Eventbrite. Please check the link in our description to find out more about our Eventbrite page and the Wild Romania project, as well as NTD film contact details.